It's literally written in the Bible 3,000 years ago that a merry heart is a medicine to the body. Ill thoughts will dry the bones. And that's written thousands of years ago. And we know that stress affects the physical body. And it's my hope that it's our generation that actually wakes up and starts using it and getting results and makes it a real thing. Because the fact that it's been around thousands of years and more and more people are getting sick and depressed and trauma and all of the negative things. During that time with 9/11, you see people going to volunteer and firefighters running into the building and all of these things. And it's like I was sitting here behind a desk. And so I had this survivor's guilt, it was a mixed feeling of feeling guilty for surviving. Had an accident, technically two, car accident and a fall, fell just wrong, just right. However you want to say it, I literally went from living a full life to being on a good day, I could get around in my wheelchair or walker or cane. And on a lot of days, I was just in bed in extreme pain on morphine. And that was my life for over 6, almost 7 years. I was just a mess.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Elevated Conversations. In this episode, we speak with Brandy Gillmore, an expert that has learnt to use her brain to overcome crippling health problems and now teaches others how they can use the power of their brain and mind to improve their physical health as well as their emotional well-being. Hope you enjoy Brandy Gillmore. Hi, Brandy. Welcome to Elevated Conversations. It's great to connect with you and have you on the show.
Why, thank you. It is so wonderful to be here with you.
Very often when I read bios, something catches my eye and I know where to start. But when I read yours, I thought we could go in so many directions with this conversation because your work seems to have expanded so many areas, but also I could see that your inner journey has been progressing as well. Is that something that you put more and more attention into now as you go through your life?
More in my inner journey, I would say the inner journey is always the key, right? Right? It's always the key. And of course, when I was injured, wheelchair, walker, cane, and a mess, all of that, I was putting a lot of effort into figuring it out. So just in a different way now,
We'd love to hear people's stories. So if you want to share your story, we'd love to hear it and how you had your transformation.
Absolutely. I have to say, this is literally what I do today is the last thing that I ever thought I would be doing. Today I show people even under medical equipment how to heal themselves or get radical results with the mind. And if you had told me during my injury that I could heal with my mind, I probably would have thought you were crazy or you just didn't get how bad I was. I was an absolute mess. So my injury was over 20 years ago now, but I had an accident. So I used to work in network engineering operations, had an accident, technically two, car accident and a fall, fell just wrong, just right. However you want to say it, I literally went from living a full life to being on a good day, I could get around in my wheelchair or walker or cane. And on a lot of days, I was just in bed in extreme pain on morphine. And that was my life for over 6, almost 7 years. I was just a mess. And so it made me want to figure it out.
Plenty of time to sit and think about how you're going to get yourself out of that situation. So I'm guessing that was like the catalyst for more of an awakening to your soul essence, looking behind the illusion, realizing that you are powerful in a way.
That was eventually the awakening. I mean, the first part was definitely not the awakening. That was the losing self part. I did that first very well. You go into the negativity and the fear and all of the things. So I would say I spiraled pretty far down. But yeah, I mean, after, my doctor said there was nothing they could do, I started looking outside of the box and of course, diet and supplements and all of the things. And when that wasn't working, I mean, magnets and special waters and frequencies and binaural beat, like all of the things and meditating for years and all of the things. And it wasn't working to heal me. But then I started finding things like in medical journals, for example, a person can have, with multiple personality disorder, can have different illnesses when they're in different personalities. And I thought, wait a second here, how is that even possible? There was even a woman in the medical journals who was blind, medically blind in some personalities, but not others. And you know what I was thinking at the time? I need a personality that is not in pain and hurt. That's exactly what I was thinking. But when you see that and you go, well, wait a second, like people with incurable diseases, that made me want to figure out how to heal myself. And of course, you know, you guys speak so much on even, you know, the inner trauma and the wounding, and that's, you know, it is, and there's keys on, sometimes it affects your physical body and you don't know it, other times it doesn't. So we could go there at some point, but that's where the last place I ever thought it would be was the inner work.
Wow, it's so nice that you're just so vulnerable and open to sharing, you know, that dark night of the soul, essentially, when you probably look back now and how you had to get yourself out and really learn how to do that. So what are some key things that, you know, you shifted, and like what actor did you move into, or what personality did you move into to get yourself out of that when you learnt this?
You know, I think with multiple personality, it was kind of a reference for my mind of exactly that. It was, and by the way, I have so much compassion for anybody who has multiple personalities. So but that was my journey, was thinking exactly that, because I think one of the things that also kept me stuck was I had been doing all the mind things. I had been meditating and the affirmations and the chanting and the positive thinking and the things. And I started to look at it and I thought, well, wait a second here. How long do I have to meditate to activate healing? And you think about the placebo, people who take a fake treatment and they can get results. Well, they don't have to meditate at all. But wait a sec, what about people with multiple personality disorder? How long do they have to meditate? They don't. They actually can have it. So while meditation can be great, some meditations can be great, and like anything, some aren't so great, but it just really made me understand that you had to go deeper. And so I think that there's, I would say that it's kind of, I think that, again, the idea that emotions could affect the physical body, to me, was initially, I had grown up that emotions were just, you know, leave your emotions at the door. And I think a lot of us grow up that way, where we feel like emotions aren't that important. We bury them, get good at burying them, don't even know they're in there. But when we stop and think about it, emotions obviously affect our happiness. And when we think about our health, you know, even research shows that autoimmune conditions can be caused by stress. And so we can see the link between emotions and healing. And I think it's a lot different than most people think it is.
And was there stress from your childhood? Was there some sort of event, or was there chaos in the home, or was there some sort of stress response that could have been imprinted when you were young?
It was the last thing I would have thought it would be. And it was this. So I mentioned I used to work in network engineering operations. And I worked here in California from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. In short, I was in the office when the trade center got hit, when the trade towers got hit. And I was on the phone with a colleague who then started just yelling, you know, help me, help me. And then the phones went dead.
Oh, God.
And I was like, and then, you know, I didn't know what was happening. And then all I want to do is help the colleague. And then you see, and then so what followed that was, then there was that, and I wasn't thinking about, oh, me. I was like, how can I help? And then because in telecommunications, we had the backbone network was in, we had co-located equipment in one of the towers and whatnot. So our network went down. So then we have all of these carriers calling in, so, you know, so it was a mess. So then I got to working on that. But meanwhile, the next months to follow, you know, in telecommunications, we had to know the current events of what was going on at all times. So around my desk there was, on every pillar in the building was news stations. So then I would see over and over the footage playing. And then there was also like are we in orange zone? Are we in red zone for terrorist attack? And so there was all of these things. And basically in my mind, as I was working, I linked up like a fear of dying and also a feeling of wanting to go die to save others. Now, the tricky question you guys asked was this, is you said, was it something that started in your childhood? The answer is yes and no and yes, because so if we think about patterns for a moment, like if we think about, we could talk about in psychology, we could look at repetition compulsion or reenactments or attachment theory, or we could just simply say, you know, maybe a woman with an abusive father leaves him and can find an abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. Like not everybody finds Pete, you know? And so, but
I did
there's
have an
that
abusive father, and I did find him. Unfortunately,
and that's the
I broke the
that's the
pattern.
exact. So it all depends on how it shows up. Exactly. So, but you also did the work, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, um, and that's the thing, is we have to do the work. But my point is that I had a pattern of wanting to die for others, even from childhood. So it didn't necessarily create the pattern. It was part of the pattern that then amplified it exponentially. And so it was on my pattern, but it was a big trigger. So when I went to heal myself, I needed to identify these subconscious emotions. Now, by the way, if you had asked me if I was in fear at the time, or had a fear of dying, or was wanting to die for others, I would have like not even resonated with it. I wouldn't have even known that that was an issue. So I really had to go deep, say, well, what is going on? Because I didn't know it was there. I was so good at burying my emotions.
So let's just break that down, just because I'm feeling a little bit confused, and maybe the listeners would feel confused as to, you wanted to save people by dying. So is that like being the hero in an event, saving a car accident so the person didn't die? Is that what you mean?
Well, kind of, yes. And so, I mean, technically it didn't start that way. There was like some type of childhood thing where I was standing next to like the cool older kids as I was, I don't know, young. And they said, you know, would you die to save your sibling? And at the time, at a young age, 5, 6, 7, it was like, well, no, I would just live. Why would I die? And then somebody else next to me said, no, I would die to save my sibling. And they became like the good person. So I kind of felt like ashamed that I wouldn't die for my sibling. So now it was more like selfish to not do it. Was part of the thing, and good if you did. It was this. And then also I grew up Lutheran, and you know, Jesus died on the cross, and all there was patterning, and Martin Luther King, and so it was a lot of programming throughout my younger years with that.
So it's like feeling like an expected, like being, you know, dying to show that you're strong, in other words. And so that would probably was a bit
Well,
overwhelming for you.
yeah, and more so also bad if you don't, like
Yeah.
selfish. If you
Yeah.
didn't, like, oh, you wouldn't do that for your little brother or sister, or you wouldn't do that for somebody. So it's like also a selfish, you know, you during that time with 9/11, you see people going to volunteer and firefighters running into the building and all of these things. And it's like I was sitting here behind a desk. And so I had this survivor's guilt, you know, of yeah. So it was a mixed feeling of feeling guilty for surviving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it didn't make logical sense. And that's
Even
kind
though
of,
it's so funny, Brandy, because even though you were there helping people, it just, you know, even though you were helping that whole situation remotely, it still affected you and triggered this in you.
yeah. And I mean, helping to an extent. So yeah, I was helping as much as I could online, but you know, at the same time, there was only so much we could do. You know, so yeah, but it did, it triggered all of these feelings. And it was, and it wasn't just like, it was an ongoing pattern. Like when you see something, you feel like, well, I should die to say it's the right thing to, it's like a deep self-sacrifice pattern, if you will. So, but this is what's kind of, so this is healing. A key of healing is this, is let's be honest, people can have plenty of stress and negative emotions and all these things and not be sick, right? And there can also be people who have seemingly less stress who are sick. And that was something that I didn't understand with healing. I was like, well, if stress affects the physical body, then why are some people sick and why are some not? And we could even see, if you think about it, somebody can even die of a broken heart. So we can see that emotions can really impact us to the point of death. And what I began to figure out was that it takes a combination of emotions. And that was pivotal, was the combination. And so, in my situation, it was the feeling of wanting to die, fear of dying, and also guilt, the survivor's guilt. So it's a combination. And then I guess a simple analogy is this. Is it's like if somebody wants to make cake and they have flour, then they can't make cake. But if they have flour and they mix it with like eggs and butter and yada, 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 other ingredients, they can make cake. And so it's like if you shift the emotions, the ingredients, you have different recipes. And that's how I was able to figure out how it was possible for somebody with multiple personality disorder to have different illnesses when they're in different personalities. They can have asthma in one personality, but not in another, or back pain or neck pain or seizures or whatever it is in one personality or not in another, and even have another personality that's completely healthy, no physical health issues at all. And so that's what I would say is key for physical healing. And the distinction is that, we can all have trauma or hardship or negative emotions or stress, but it really just depends on how it gets linked up. And a lot of times it can be very miswired, just like mine didn't make logical sense. A lot of times that can happen.
And what have you replaced those old false beliefs with? Like, what are your mantras, your beliefs about life, yourself, your worth now? Like you articulated those three before very, very well about the ones you identified were not serving you. What have you replaced them with?
It would be good to live. That
not giving up.
There was that.
Yeah.
Other things is this, because I had so much subconscious fear and I didn't realize it. I was really good at suppressing my emotions. So one of the things that I programmed in was basically a feeling like fear is like a kick me sign, that if I'm going to hold on to a lot of fear, that don't be surprised if I get kicked by life, let me let it go, was actually one of the things that I did as I was retraining my nervous system. So there was really multiple things of creating the shift. But I would also say that one thing that was key is also what we don't realize a lot of times is that emotions control our consciousness. So a simple way to think about this is that, if we're really, really, really in love with somebody, what do we see? We see all of the good, right? But if we're really, really upset, what do we see? We see all of the negative or the fault finding or whatnot. And so another key part is, what I began to discover in my work is that when we're feeling certain emotions at a subconscious level, it shifts our consciousness. And so what happened is, as I started to let go of the fear and also program in positive emotions, that it was like like suddenly the world looked more beautiful. And I didn't know any different before. I didn't even know I was looking at life in a fearful state, but I thought this is just how the world is. And so I would say that was another key, is really understanding that reprogramming at a deeper level can shift your consciousness, and then you start to experience and of course attract in a different way. And so I would say that there's layers, there's depth to it, so there's depth to it.
There is so much depth to this journey. And we're a big believer in like feeling it to heal it. And it seems like you had to go to those depths to have the awareness and observe all of this, to link it all, to be able to get out of that trench after feeling what was buried inside of you. Do you feel that you have to feel it to heal it? Is that a way you believe?
I would say when it comes to health issues, with caution. So yes, and with caution. And so, and by the way, even in my book, I actually say you have to feel it to heal it. I do actually say that, but in a positive context.
Mhm.
And yes, and Yes. So you have to become aware of it. And this is the reason that I'm just careful with when it comes to health issues, is because imagine if somebody has anxiety and it's affecting their health. Well, if they go more into it, it can affect their health even more. And, or if they have resentment and they go more into it, then it can increase the pain. And so what's incredible is that basically, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have people, like, first thing is always lift the emotions first. Like, I call it the gift method. And it's basically, get new positive mind programming and then identify the negative. And then, and then, so feeling it, becoming aware of it, and then shifting it. So but that's the thing. You have to be aware of it. And I was not aware of mine. So, and I had to understand it and identify it.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. So tell us, how did you heal your body with your mind then? After this car accident and these accidents, how did you're mobile now?
I can run now, actually. When I was healing myself, afterwards, at first I would go to the gym and I would, go in with my walker and whatnot. And I started just, lifting weights as I was working on getting my mobility back and whatnot. And over this, I don't know, few month, maybe 4-month period of time, these bodybuilders were watching me and they said, "We have never seen anybody do what you've done. If you ever want to work out with us, you can." And I was like, yes. So next thing you know, I'm working out with like grandmaster champion bodybuilders. And so it's like this whole fun thing. I mean, literally, and they're beautiful, beautiful beings. But the gentleman, one of his thighs was bigger than my waist by like 5 inches bigger than my waist. I mean, so I can run, I can lift weights, I can do all of the things. Now, by the way, if you'd like, I can show you pictures of what it looks like to heal with the mind, like under medical equipment, to kind of just explain a little bit more. Is that
would be great.
So because I know for a lot of people, again, I would have thought that it was impossible to heal with the mind. And so what happened is after I got better, I thought, people are going to think this is impossible to like heal with your mind. And so what I started doing is I started then showing people how to basically release pain with their own mind. And so what happened is I started showing people how to release pain. And then I was asked to speak on stage. Like, I started speaking on stages, and I would take people from the audience and I would show them how to release pain. And I thought one time, well, gosh, people are going to think that it's fake. Like, it doesn't, like, it's just, it doesn't make logical sense that you can release pain so quickly. And here we go. There we go. So this person right here. So this is, by the way, this is a medical journal. So I had some case studies published in a medical journal. Okay. And this person right here, she had, it took her 22 minutes. So it's a 22-minute session. And this was pain. So this is pain in her neck and her back. And so for anybody who may be visually impaired, basically what this is thermography. And a way to think about thermography or medical thermal imaging is like this: is like if you sprain your ankle or you have an injury, it can emit heat from the body. So heat emits from the body, and medical thermal imaging is a very advanced medical imaging that picks up and detects even the slightest degree of changes. And so you can see pain under it. And so the image on the left, where there's all of the red over her neck and back area, that's where she was experiencing physical pain. And so then I showed her how to use her mind, and you can see 22 minutes later, the scan is clear. And she did that. I just showed her how to do it. And basically, and that's what I did, is I helped her to identify the specific emotions that were connected to it. And this one took 4 minutes. So it's just basically showing people how to use their mind. Now, one of them that's really fun is this one right here. This gentleman, it took him 28 minutes. And he went from a level 6 of pain to 0 pain. And what's fun is that after he stood up, he was shocked. He goes, "I'm surprised that even worked. I just came from a 10-day meditation retreat. And before that, I was at a positive thinking seminar." And so that's kind of the point of it, though, is that, like, even when I share my injury, I had specific patterns that I needed to clear. And And so when I really addressed the specific emotions, that's when it was pivotal. And so that's a big key to the puzzle.
So, like when you're moving them through acknowledging the emotion in the back, the back's often known for not feeling supported, or it could be the vagus nerve, the heat from the vagus nerve inflamed on the neck, on the back of the neck, because it's plugging into the back of the subconscious programs and then going through that channel. Is that what you find? Like commonly it's an emotion of feeling not supported or heard.
In the lower back, a feeling of not supported. Absolutely. So this is what I always tell people is whatever health issue we have, it's giving us some type of message to change. And so like if you think about lower back is back support, right? But if we think about upper back, that might be afraid of being stabbed in the back or feeling like somebody's doing something behind your back, or pain in the neck might be feeling like somebody's a pain in the neck. And so idioms in our culture actually tend to, there are some idioms that match up. If you think about it, even, and this is part of the way I also began to look at this, is that I started looking at individual emotions. And I said, of course, if somebody's embarrassed, their face turns red. If they feel anxiety, they can have a panic attack. Or sexual thought, sexual physical response. Or feeling disgust, they might feel nauseous. And so we could see how different emotions have a very different effect on the physical body. And so that's exactly, it was looking at, what is her name? Florence Scovel Shinn from way back the 1900s. That's what she started to basically come out with, was the awareness that, if you don't want to hear something, maybe it affects your hearing or your seeing or whatnot. And that's what I did in my work, is I just hugely expanded upon that, because what I found is, basically the multiple ingredients is key. So the way that I work with these people is I would identify what specific emotions and then help them to shift them. So typically I'm not taking them into the negative. What I do is typically take them into the positive and radically shift that. And so that is key for getting results, is to radically go into the positive. And a simple way to communicate that would be to think about the power of optimism. So even if we look at medical studies for people who get out of surgery, if they're optimistic, their body can heal much faster. And if people are in a negative, stressful, fearful state, it heals much slower. So even cell proliferation is much slower, et cetera. And so it's that combination. So adding optimism plus getting rid of the negative plus, and so that it's that combination, and that's what I do, and that's how people are able to create these radical shifts. So
wow. And in your story where you talked about all those months of being around those news screens and being constantly bombarded with upsetting stories, let's call it the information in the news, which, well, it wasn't positive, was it? It was, are we in orange alert or red alert or yellow or etc., and images and all of that programming into the mind. Are you very strict now with what you feed into your brain and mind, that sort of information?
I am very strict about what I feed into information. Yeah, because very strict, because one, it's intelligent to be strict with what you put in your mind. But I would also say this. I feel so good now. Like I am happy for no reason and every reason. And I feel happy that if I watch something that like I see something on TV that's really negative, honestly, it feels like blah. Like it's a simple way to think about it is, it's like if somebody has a messy house and they throw something else on the floor, they probably may not notice because it's already a mess. But if the house is really clean and you throw something on the floor, you're like, wait, it stands out. And I would say that I'm so in tune now with my emotions, and I feel so good that when things are off, I'm like, whoa, wait a second here.
Yeah.
So yeah. Are you?
Yeah, for sure. I notice it even more with people. Like if I happen to get trapped with a a person I refer to as an energy vampire, you know, where they suck the life and the enthusiasm out of you. You might be in a really good mood and you're all excited about something, and you get stuck with someone who's low vibe, and you feel like, oh my goodness, you know, they're hard work to be around. I noticed that one as well. Have you had that?
Yeah, but I have a ridiculous sense of humor that if there is in that, I've developed ways to navigate that. I don't hang out, but yeah, absolutely. You have people who are in the negative and you say like, yeah, you don't want to hang out with that. I'm with
I
you.
feel
100%.
as well, like the whatever's crossing our path is for more love, more compassion, you know. So in those moments when this frequency is coming towards us, it's like a lesson if we're going to be compassionate and sit with that, or you know, how we're going to feel, how we're going to respond. It just showing our instrument, hey, we're feeling wobbly here, we're feeling drained. There's more stable to be had in our evolution, right? In our frequency. So it's like just training. It's like training a muscle, like doing meditation. You're training your gifts to be in a higher frequency on the quantum field for longer periods of time. And also, it's like being around these other types of people for a longer period of time is strengthening those muscles. That's how I see it anyway.
And so
Being
you
around
can
them,
have it where it doesn't affect you as much, for
Of
sure. But
course.
part of self-love would be getting the heck out of there too, right? It's like you don't want to sit around there and have it there for too long. And look, but
yes.
sometimes, you know, people that we're related to can be our biggest triggers, you know. So uh, in one sense, we are around them or need to spend time with them because we're, let's say, related to them. But we can learn to navigate that better, because some people's biggest source of negativity can sometimes be, you know, family members or associates and people they're around. So it's hard to be away from them. So they have to learn to be able to deal with it better. And I love what you were saying about humor. Humor can be a great way to deal with that. And also, as you were saying earlier, just being aware of it, being aware that this person could be like this, it helps you to prepare also.
Exactly. There's a couple other hacks that I do have, admittedly. One is I always like to know what people are really interested in. So let's say somebody's going into the negative hole of blah, and I'll be like, oh, wait, and your dog, how is your dog? Oh, so, or whatever it is, like, oh my God, you know, what was that recipe on blah, blah, blah? Like, so that's my go-to, is know something that they love. And if they ever start going down the negative trail, that I ask them a question about something that I know that they love and they like being knowledgeable about. And then I just kind of sidetrack it. So that's another one that I do.
That's a
So,
good hack. I love that. So, Brandy, tell us about your book. You've got a book, Master Your Mind and Energy to Heal Your Body. Tell us about that. What sparked that creation?
you know, it's so funny. Like I said in the beginning, this is literally the last thing I ever thought that I would do. And so after I healed myself, it was just, I never saw myself doing this. I just wanted to help people. And so I just would tell them. And I thought, I'm going to hand this off to my doctor. So I still didn't see myself as the practitioner. I was like, but I just want to help people and show them. And so I started showing people. And then I thought, and then it started growing, and then I was showing more people, and then I was showing, and then I thought, well, I have to show it under medical equipment so people can see it. Well, then I have to tell them how to do it. So it's been like, and then it was suddenly like, then I was asked to do a TED talk. And then I was like, but I just want to write this book so everybody knows how to do it. And then the publisher says, well, you don't have a big enough following. So then the next day I started my podcast. And so it just like was this whole thing that just grew into wanting people to know, because that we can heal with the mind. Because it's kind of like this, there's a few things, you know, it's like, if we think about somebody with a let's say there's people who go to the emergency room who think they're having a heart attack, and really it's anxiety, right? But they think that they're having a heart attack. And my point from that is that throughout our bodies, we have emotions that are affecting us just in that same way, and we don't realize it. And so, like, even with those images, under medical equipment, I mean, the longest person took 47 minutes. Now, don't get me wrong, they have to follow through to embrace the change. So it does take real reprogramming. But like I worked with people back to back to back to back from all kinds of things. I mean, needing shoulder surgery and can't get it for whatever reason, or autoimmune conditions, or tumors, or cysts, or I mean, all kinds of things. And I'm not doing it, they're doing it. And it's just the awareness that our emotions do affect our physical body, and we don't realize it's happening. And kind of one of the things I always say is this, is, it's literally written in the Bible 3,000 years ago that a merry heart is a medicine to the body, ill thoughts will dry the bones. And that's written thousands of years ago. And we know that stress affects the physical body. And it's my hope that it's our generation that actually wakes up and starts using it and getting results and makes it a real thing. Because the fact that it's been around thousands of years and we're here in this time, and more people are getting sick and depressed and trauma and all of the negative things. Like, I want people to do the same thing I did, where they go through, whether they're going through a hard time or not, but transform it and change it. So that's what the book is about. The book is basically about the science behind it. It's basically part one is what I found, the research behind it, energy, even that most people think energy is woo woo, but the guy who actually discovered it won the Nobel Prize. Was nominated for the Nobel Prize 11 times, and most people don't even know that energy is a real thing. They think it's just a woo woo thing. So anyway, so it's how the mind affects the physical body, and then part two is the gift method. It's how to do it. So
beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. We love it. We're big believers that the emotions suppressed in the system are causing, density and distortions in a health way. And we're big believers in that. And it's beautiful to have a light like you come on the show and share that wisdom and that consciousness with our followers and our viewers and our listeners. And for anyone looking to reach out to you, where can they find you, Brandy?
My website is brandygillmore.com, and that's Brandy. Gilmore is with 2 L's.com.
Wonderful. We'll list that.
Yeah. And I have to say, I love, you guys are just beautiful together, and I love your energy, and I love what you're doing also. So thank you so much for having me as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so open with your story, right? And inspiring a lot of people, because the person who might click on this might be, new to us, new to the channel, and they've clicked on this because they've probably lost their health. And often it's in moments of emergency or crisis where people can find information that can really help them. So I want to thank you for taking what happened to you in your life and turning it into something which could really be of service to other people, and not just fixing yourself up, but helping to make the world a better place and raising the vibration of consciousness and the vibration of the collective through being vulnerable and open and putting all this energy and effort in to help others. I want to just acknowledge you and say, thank you for that and your contribution.
You're so sweet. You are so sweet. My heart receives that, and likewise back at you both. Like, thank you also. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.